I believe this could be a very exciting video. It must be at least 2 years since I last unpacked a mop robot. Accordingly, I have missed quite a bit of innovation in this area and would like to catch up on that with you in this video. Let's take a look at the SwitchBot S and see what has changed over time, what these components can do now, and how practical they really are at home. But first, let's check out the intro and then we'll continue. Enjoy! First of all, we need to talk about the elephant in the room, which is this huge box that I received. And so that it doesn't stay like this and I can eventually sit down again, let's go ahead and unpack this thing. Overall, it is definitely very well packaged. The first part that comes out here is apparently the station for sure. Let's set that aside for now and focus on the middle package, I would say. Here we have cleaning brushes, cleaning agents, and so on, along with the robot itself. And then we have another second station right over here at this spot. As always, I approach the topic with an open mind, but I have at least prepared myself by knowing what these two stations are for. And the idea is, in my opinion, quite brilliant. Specifically, the robot is designed to charge normally at this station, as is common, and it even has a dirt tank similar to what is found in some other robots. This means that after it has completed its cleaning round, it can drive in here and dump all the waste it has collected into the large container above, which needs to be cleaned regularly. Nevertheless, there are some who also like to use the robot for mopping. I personally do as well. However, my old robot always had a relatively small tank that theoretically needed to be refilled multiple times during the mopping process. The robot does this automatically in that case, but not in this station, rather in the second station. The advantage of this is that the second station has a much larger tank that we can utilize accordingly, and also, which is new, it has a wastewater tank. This means that after the robot has moved around, it autonomously collects the wastewater and deposits it into the second station, which we could then theoretically empty manually. But, and that's why there is a second station, and not everything in one station, we could also place this one smartly, for example, in the bathroom, where we already have a water supply and drainage hose for washing hands, which we can connect to this station. And with that, this station can completely fill itself autonomously and also pump out the wastewater. In 2021, it may sometimes happen that there is no power available at your wastewater station. And SwitchBot has also thought about this, as we have a vacuum robot that is already being charged at a station and theoretically serves as a kind of power bank that drives around all the time. So when the robot fetches fresh water here, it can simultaneously power this station, which is then sufficient to pump fresh water, draining wastewater. Therefore, we actually don't have to do anything before and after cleaning except for regularly emptying, what I will now call the trash can that is located inside. Whether and how well it all works, I obviously cannot say yet because the devices are right in front of me. I would say, let's first set everything up, assemble it all, and see if it works. So, I have now really tested the SwitchBot S vacuum for some time and can now tell you how it all went. I would like to start with the installation of everything, as it is, of course, a bit more effort compared to a classic vacuum robot. First and foremost, you need to find a suitable place for the suction station. There must actually be a power outlet available so that the vacuum can charge. Additionally, we also need a place for the fresh water. Find the wastewater station. There are two options. If you have a bit more space, you can simply place it in the corner as it is, because on top there is a freshwater and a wastewater tank that you can easily connect to the base station, allowing you to theoretically operate the whole system without fresh water. You can use the wastewater access. The downside, of course, is that you will eventually need to refill the fresh water and also the wastewater. I also tested how long it takes until you need to refill, and we'll get to that later. In any case, you can just place them in the corner. Alternatively, you can also connect it directly to a solid fresh water source, just like I did, and there is actually quite a bit of practical accessories included. So I looked at various options. You could simply connect it at the sink, for example. Alternatively, I have a connection for a dryer and washing machine in my bathroom. I could have also connected everything in between. So there are plenty of adapters, some of which I didn't even know what I needed them for. In any case, I selected the right ones for me in 2021 and connected everything. After that, I charged the station once using the USB-C connection. Theoretically, this shouldn't be necessary. The robot could handle it as well. However, for the initial charge, I wanted to do it myself so that the robot doesn't have to push its entire charge into the station first. After that, the robot went through the apartment for the first time to initially create a map. You have two different options. Either you let it quickly pass through and essentially scan the apartment, or alternatively, you can have it clean directly in this step. However, I first let it run quickly. The whole process took about 10 to 15 minutes. Afterwards, I informed it where the wastewater station is, and then it was ready to go. To test it, I let it run through the entire apartment once, cleaning everything, because I wanted to see if this wastewater connection actually makes a difference. As I mentioned before, I had a robot that also had mopping capabilities with a fresh water tank, but no wastewater tank. This means that it basically drove through the apartment, scrubbed the floor once, and simply spread the water throughout the entire apartment. Since you could only change the cleaning cloth, I honestly wasn't very excited about the idea, because you can't really detect any dirt at all. So I imagine that it moistens the floor a little bit, but it can't really clean it properly. Accordingly, I wanted to see if this is any different. To test this, I disconnected the wastewater connection from my 2001 model and connected it to the tank so it could draw fresh water from the tap while the wastewater would fill a bucket. This way, we can take a look at the bucket afterwards and assess whether it actually contains dirty water or if it just has regular tap water in it. Said and done, I drove through the entire apartment and checked how full the wastewater tank actually is. And I have to say it was already filled quite up to the top, 2001. However, I also have to mention that I set the cleaning program to have it go through the apartment twice. That means we have about 80 square meters that he has covered, multiplied by 2, resulting in an almost full wastewater tank. For those of you considering operating it without a wastewater connection, you can calculate for yourselves how often you will need to empty the wastewater tank, but looking at it positively, you can definitely see that there is quite a bit of dirt in there. This means that the device has definitely picked up some dirt particles from the floor. What I forgot to mention about the topic is that there are also 2 additional connections at the station. One of them is a filter that should be cleaned periodically. I suspect this will be some kind of wastewater filter in case it has picked up larger particles to prevent the pipes from clogging, and a cleaning solution container. Conveniently, everything is included in the packaging, including 2 cleaning pads that can be filled in once. This means that he doesn't just distribute water, but also uses cleaning agents to make the floor cleaner. Accordingly, it also needs to be refilled regularly. What I find important to mention is the noise level. There are different modes here depending on how dirty the floor is. You can adjust the suction and water consumption level. If you set everything to the highest level, it sounds something like this. However, this is not yet the loudest noise. Both the pumping out of the dirty water and the emptying of the container produce some sounds. The whole process only takes about 30 seconds, so it's not an incredibly long noise, but it does get a bit louder, and one should consider where to place the suction station to avoid being annoyed when the vacuum robot is finished cleaning. Above all, it must be said that the mop is dried again afterwards. This is to ensure that nothing rots under the vacuum robot, so it is heated accordingly and completely dried. This process takes about 20 minutes. You can actually hear a faint fan noise during these 20 minutes. This happens after every mopping process, and I believe that there is actually a slight increase in temperature in the room. Lastly, let's talk about the app. It actually reminds me a lot of common vacuum robot apps, so there's nothing extraordinary at this point. It appears organized and has enough options. I definitely find it positive that you receive software updates. Right after I unpacked it, I was able to update the suction station, the fresh and wastewater station, and the vacuum robot. So there are separate updates for all devices. What I haven't checked yet, but would actually be very interested in, is of course a Home Assistant integration. I will try this out for you and write a comment where I will mention whether it worked. Otherwise, back to the app. You can set which zones it should not enter. You can specify which zones have carpet so that it only vacuums there and does not mop, and so on and so forth. We already know all of this from every vacuum robot, just like we actually know the suction results, so it vacuums thoroughly. But, and I think this should actually be mentioned in every video, can I throw away my broom and my mop from now on? No, of course not. On one hand, there are always places that the vacuum robot simply cannot reach, and on the other hand, it is more intended for daily dirt. However, sooner or later, you still have to perform a deep cleaning. Especially in areas with flooring that actually requires a lot of force to clean, the vacuum robot simply cannot manage. But for those who have pets, children, or simply tend to be a bit messy, this can definitely be a relief. But of course, keep in mind that this means you have to be very, very tidy. The floor must be clear and the doors must be open so that the vacuum robot can pass through every door. However, for those who meet these conditions, I can really recommend this device. I will of course include the link in the video description below. I would like to take this opportunity to thank SwitchBot for providing me with this device. I will of course continue to test the device for you. If you have any questions about it, feel free to write them in the comments. Perhaps I will then publish a long-term report on it. If you don't want to miss this, feel free to click subscribe and help me improve these statistics. And then I would say, see you in the next video. Until then, take care and goodbye.